I need you to hear something that might completely shift the way you've been viewing your life, especially those moments when you felt like you were being left behind, when you watched others get the opportunities you wanted, when doors closed in your face that seemed to open effortlessly for everyone else. Right now, in this very moment, I'm going to tell you something that your soul already knows, but your mind has forgotten. You didn't miss anything. You haven't fallen behind. You're not being punished or overlooked or forgotten. The universe is protecting you from something you can't see yet, saving you for something better than you can currently imagine, and preparing you for a future that requires you to be exactly who you're becoming through these experiences of waiting and apparent loss. Stay with me until the very end of this story, because what I'm about to share will help you see your entire journey through new eyes, and you'll finally understand why certain things didn't work out the way you planned. And I need something from you, something that will create a powerful collective energy. Let's reach 100 heartfelt comments on this video. If we can do that together, we'll prove to the universe that we're ready to receive the deeper wisdom it's trying to share with us. So commit right now to watching until the final word, and then leaving a comment that comes from the deepest, most honest part of you. The universe rewards those who engage fully, who show up completely, who participate in their own awakening. And those who watch until the end and leave their mark are always remembered first, both by this platform and by the cosmic intelligence that's orchestrating your life. Let me tell you about someone whose story will probably mirror your own in ways that might make you uncomfortable at first, but will ultimately set you free. This person had spent years feeling like they were always one step behind, always missing the boat, always arriving just after the opportunity had passed. They watched their friends get promoted while they stayed in the same position. They watched colleagues get married while they remained single. They watched peers buy houses and start families while they struggled to make rent, and wondered if they'd ever feel stable enough for any of that. And the hardest part wasn't even the external circumstances. The hardest part was the internal narrative that had taken root in their mind. The voice that whispered constantly that they were somehow defective, somehow not good enough, somehow cursed or forgotten by whatever force distributes blessings and opportunities in this world. They would lie awake at night doing that terrible mathematics we all do when we're suffering, calculating all the ways they'd fallen short, all the chances they'd supposedly missed, all the mistakes that had led them to this place of feeling perpetually left behind. There was one moment in particular, one specific experience that had haunted them for over 2 years, that kept replaying in their mind like a song they couldn't stop hearing. They had interviewed for a position that seemed perfect, that felt like everything they'd been working toward, that would have solved so many of their financial struggles and given them the sense of forward movement they'd been craving. The interview went well, or so they thought. They felt the connection with the interviewer. They answered the questions confidently. They left feeling hopeful for the first time in months. And then came the rejection email. Brief, professional, impersonal. "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." Those words hit like a physical blow, and what followed was a spiral into depression that lasted weeks. They stopped applying for other jobs, stopped believing in their own capabilities, stopped trusting that good things could happen for them. They watched from a distance as someone else took that position, someone who seemed less qualified, less experienced, less deserving, at least in their wounded perception. But here's what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly have known in that moment of disappointment and pain. The universe was protecting them. That job that seemed so perfect, that felt like their salvation, would have put them in a toxic environment with a supervisor who was psychologically abusive, who destroyed the confidence of everyone who worked under them, who created such a hostile atmosphere that people who took positions there rarely lasted more than a year before burning out completely or having stress-related health crises. The person who got the job instead, the one they envied and resented, ended up in therapy within 6 months, dealing with anxiety attacks and insomnia and a level of stress that affected their physical health. Within a year, that person had to take medical leave, had to rebuild their shattered nervous system, had to recover from what felt like a trauma experience. And meanwhile, the person who missed that opportunity, who felt like such a failure, ended up finding a different position 3 months later, one that paid slightly less but offered mentorship, growth, kindness, and a work culture that actually valued human beings over productivity metrics. But they only learned this part of the story much later, through a chance encounter with someone who had worked at that first company. And when they learned it, everything shifted. Suddenly, that rejection that had felt like the universe abandoning them was revealed to be the universe protecting them, guiding them away from something that would have harmed them, even though in the moment it felt like being denied what they deserved. This is the truth that I need you to understand deeply. In your bones, in your heart, in the very cells of your body, every closed door, every rejection, every missed opportunity, every time something didn't work out the way you planned, the universe was protecting you, not punishing you, not forgetting you, not proving that you're unworthy, protecting you from something you couldn't see, redirecting you towards something better, saving you from pain or limitation or a path that would have taken you away from your highest good. And I know this is hard to believe when you're in the middle of disappointment, when you're watching others succeed while you struggle, when you're tired of waiting and wondering if your turn will ever come. I know it feels more like cruelty than protection. I know it feels like you're being overlooked while everyone else gets chosen. But what if I told you that the universe sees a much bigger picture than you can see right now? What if I told you that your soul before you were born actually chose some of these challenges, these delays, these apparent setbacks, because they were necessary for your growth, for your evolution, for the development of qualities you'll need for the life that's waiting for you? Let me go deeper into this story, because there are more layers that need to be revealed. This same person who missed that job also had a series of romantic relationships that didn't work out, that ended in painful ways, that left them feeling unlovable and convinced they'd never find lasting love. There was one relationship in particular, one person they'd been so certain was the one, that they'd built their entire future around in their imagination. They could see the wedding, the home they'd share, the life they'd build together. And when that relationship ended suddenly, when that person chose someone else, it felt like the death of everything they'd hoped for. They went through the stages of grief, the denial and anger and bargaining and depression, and they got stuck there for a long time, unable to move forward, unable to open their heart again. They compared every new person they met to this ex-partner, and everyone fell short. They told themselves they'd already met and lost their soulmate, that they'd missed their chance at happiness, that they were destined to be alone. But the universe, in its infinite wisdom and perfect timing, was protecting them from a relationship that would have gradually diminished them, that would have required them to make themselves smaller to make the other person comfortable, that would have led to a marriage where they felt increasingly invisible and unappreciated. The person who seemed like their soulmate was actually someone who couldn't have given them what they truly needed, not because that person was bad or wrong, but because the compatibility wasn't real. It was just familiar, and we often mistake familiar for right when we haven't healed our original wounds. 2 years after that breakup, after they'd done the work of healing, after they'd learned to be whole on their own, after they'd developed the self-love and self-respect that had been missing, they met someone who saw them fully, who appreciated them deeply, who didn't need them to be different or smaller or quieter. And they realized that if that first relationship had worked out, they never would have been available for this one. They never would have done the inner work that made them capable of healthy love. They never would have become the person who could recognize and receive real partnership. The universe had been protecting them all along, even when it felt like rejection, even when it felt like loss, even when it felt like they were being denied the love they deserved. The universe was actually saying, "Not this one. This one will hurt you in ways you can't see yet. Wait, I have something better planned, but you're not ready for it yet. Let me help you become ready." And this is the pattern that runs through all of our lives, whether we recognize it or not. Every disappointment is a redirection. Every closed door is protection from a room you don't actually want to be in, even if you think you do. Every delay is preparation time, space for you to develop something you're going to need, to heal something that would have sabotaged you, to learn something essential. The job you didn't get was protecting you from burnout, exploitation, or a path that would have taken you away from your true calling. The relationship that ended was protecting you from a future of compromise, resentment, or slow erasure of your authentic self. The house you couldn't afford was protecting you from financial strain, a neighborhood that wouldn't have felt like home, or being stuck in a place when you needed flexibility. The friendship that dissolved was protecting you from toxicity, one-sidedness, or energy drain that would have depleted you. I need you to go back through your own life right now, as you're taking in these words, and review the things you thought you missed, the opportunities that passed you by, the relationships that didn't work out, the plans that fell apart. And I want you to ask yourself with complete honesty, if those things had happened the way you wanted, where would you be right now? Who would you be? What would you have missed out on that came later? What would you have sacrificed without even knowing it? Because here's what often happens. We get so fixated on the one thing we wanted, the one path we thought was right, that we become blind to everything else. We can't see the other opportunities that are presenting themselves because we're still mourning the loss of that one specific thing. We can't receive the new relationships that want to form because we're still holding space for someone who's gone. We can't appreciate where we are because we're so focused on where we thought we should be. This person in the story, as they began to understand this principle of divine protection, started to review their entire life through this new lens. They looked back at all the things that hadn't worked out, and they started to see the pattern. Every time they thought they'd missed something, they'd actually been redirected towards something better. Every time they thought they'd failed, they'd actually been saved from a harder lesson down the road. Every time they thought the universe had abandoned them, they'd actually been held so carefully, so precisely, guided with such attention and love. They remembered the college they didn't get into, the one they'd been heartbroken about, and how they ended up at a different school where they met their closest friends, the people who became like family, the connections that sustained them through the hardest periods of their life. If they'd gotten into that first school, they never would have met these people, never would have had these friendships that proved to be more valuable than any degree. They remembered the apartment they'd tried to rent, the one that fell through at the last minute, leaving them scrambling to find housing. They'd been so angry, so stressed, so convinced it was another example of their bad luck. But the place they ended up finding instead was in a neighborhood where they discovered a community that changed their life, where they found a spiritual center that became their sanctuary, where they connected with teachers and practices that healed wounds they didn't even know they had. They remembered the business venture they'd wanted to invest in, the one they couldn't afford to participate in at the time, and how angry they'd been to miss out on what seemed like a sure thing. A year later, that business collapsed spectacularly, and everyone who'd invested lost their money. The financial limitation they'd resented, the fact that they didn't have the funds to invest, had actually saved them from a devastating loss. Pattern after pattern after pattern, the universe protecting them, guiding them, loving them, even when it looked like the opposite, even when it felt like punishment or abandonment or proof of their unworthiness. The whole time they were being held, being directed, being prepared for something their conscious mind couldn't yet conceive. And as they integrated this understanding, something fundamental shifted in how they moved through the world. They stopped fighting against the closed doors and started trusting them. They stopped mourning the missed opportunities and started getting curious about what was being offered instead. They stopped comparing their timeline to everyone else's and started honoring their own unique path and timing. This didn't mean they stopped having desires or goals or preferences. It didn't mean they became passive or stopped trying, but it meant they held everything more loosely, with more trust, with less desperation and fear. When something didn't work out, instead of immediately spiraling into self-blame or cosmic resentment, they would pause and say, "Okay, universe, I trust you're protecting me from something or redirecting me towards something better. Show me what I need to see. Help me understand the gift in this." And from that place of trust, they started to notice the gifts much more quickly. They didn't have to wait years to see why something hadn't worked out. Sometimes they could see it within weeks or even days. A job offer that fell through, only to have a better offer come in shortly after. A date that got cancelled, which freed up the evening for them to attend an event where they made a connection that opened new doors. A flight they missed that, they later learned, had mechanical issues and made an emergency landing. The universe's protection operates on levels we can barely comprehend with our limited human perspective. Sometimes it's protecting us from obvious dangers like toxic jobs or harmful relationships. But sometimes it's protecting something more subtle, more sacred. It's protecting our energy, our time, our attention, our life force. It's protecting our path, making sure we don't wander too far off course, even when the detour looks attractive. It's protecting our growth, ensuring we face the challenges we need to face at the time we're strong enough to handle them, not before. And sometimes the universe is protecting our dreams themselves, keeping them safe until we're mature enough, healed enough, whole enough to steward them properly. Because if you get the big success before you've healed your relationship with money and worthiness, you'll sabotage it or it will destroy you. If you get the great love before you've learned to love yourself, you'll either push it away or lose yourself in it. If you get the platform or visibility before you've developed the spiritual and emotional foundation to handle it, it will distort you. So when things don't happen in your timing, when you have to wait longer than you think you should, when you watch others get the things you want while you're still in the preparation phase, understand that this isn't punishment. This is mercy. This is wisdom. This is the universe loving you enough to make you wait until you're truly ready, until the gift won't hurt you, until you can receive it and sustain it and use it well. Now, let me speak to some specific areas where you might be feeling like you've missed something or fallen behind, because I want you to have practical understanding of how divine protection operates in different domains of life. If you're struggling financially and watching others prosper while you barely get by, understand that the universe might be protecting you from the pride, greed, or spiritual disconnection that can come with money before you're ready. It might be teaching you resourcefulness, creativity, gratitude for simple things, values that will serve you when abundance finally comes. The delay in financial success might be saving you from making mistakes that would be much more costly later, or it might be redirecting you away from a career path that would have made you wealthy but miserable. If you're single and watching everyone around you get married and start families, while you wonder if you'll ever find your person, understand that the universe might be protecting you from a mediocre relationship you would have settled for out of loneliness or social pressure. It might be giving you time to become so complete in yourself that when love comes, you'll recognize the real thing and won't accept less. The delay in romance might be protecting you from repeating old patterns or preparing you for a love that requires a more evolved version of you. If you're dealing with health challenges while others seem effortlessly healthy, understand that the universe might be using these struggles to teach you about your body, about healing, about the mind-body connection, about compassion for others who suffer. Your health journey might be preparing you to help others in ways you can't imagine yet, or it might be slowing you down so you don't burn out completely, or it might be forcing you to address emotional and spiritual issues that manifest as physical symptoms. If you feel stuck in the same place while everyone else seems to be moving forward, traveling, having adventures, living expansive lives, understand that the universe might be teaching you about depth rather than breadth, about internal richness rather than external stimulation, about being fully present where you are rather than always seeking the next thing. Your stillness might be preparation for a period of rapid movement later, building roots so deep that when the growth comes, you can sustain it. If you've experienced loss, whether of loved ones or dreams or versions of yourself, and you wonder why you had to suffer while others seem protected from such pain, understand that the universe might be initiating you into a deeper dimension of existence, breaking your heart open so it can hold more love, more compassion, more wisdom than would have been possible through an easier path. Your losses might be qualifying you for a purpose that requires you to understand suffering from the inside. In every single area where you feel you've missed out or fallen behind, there's a protective hand guiding you, even if you can't see it yet. And the ultimate protection the universe offers is this: it never gives you more than you can handle, and it never allows you to miss what's truly meant for you. If something or someone is truly meant to be yours, no force in the universe can keep it from you. The things that don't come to you, no matter how hard you try, are simply not meant for you. And that's not a judgment of your worth, but a statement of your path. Your path is unique, specifically designed for your soul's evolution, unlike anyone else's path. Comparing your journey to others is like comparing different books and saying one is wrong because it has a different plot. You're not living their story. You're living yours. And your story, with all its delays and detours and disappointments, is unfolding exactly as it needs to, for you to become who you're meant to be and to receive what you're meant to have. So what do you do with this understanding? How do you live from this place of trust when everything in you wants to panic about falling behind or missing out? First, you practice radical acceptance of what is. Not resignation, not giving up, but acceptance. Accepting that this is where you are, this is your current reality, and there's a reason for it that you might not understand yet, but can choose to trust. Second, you look for the gifts and lessons in your current circumstances instead of just focusing on what's missing. Every situation you're in is teaching you something, giving you something, preparing you for something. When you stop resisting and start receiving, you accelerate your growth and often accelerate your timeline too, because you're learning what you need to learn instead of fighting against the lesson. Third, you release comparison and competition with others. Their timeline is not your timeline. Their path is not your path. Their blessings are not your blessings. Stay in your own lane, tend your own garden, trust your own timing. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you free up enormous energy that you can redirect toward your own growth and creativity. Fourth, you cultivate genuine gratitude for the protections you've received, even the ones you didn't recognize at the time. Thank the universe for the jobs you didn't get, the relationships that ended, the plans that fell apart. Thank the universe for loving you enough to redirect you, to save you, to prepare you. This gratitude creates a frequency that attracts more blessings. And fifth, you stay open and available for what's coming, even while you're in the waiting period. Don't close your heart because you've been disappointed. Don't stop trying because things haven't worked out yet. Don't give up on your dreams because they're taking longer than expected. The universe needs you to remain open, receptive, believing, because the moment you shut down is the moment you block what's trying to reach you. Before I close this, I want to say something directly to you, to your heart, to the part of you that has been hurting and doubting and wondering why things have been so hard. You haven't missed anything. You're not behind. You're not being punished. Everything that's happened, everything that hasn't happened, every door that closed and every path that didn't open, it's all been in service of your highest good. The universe has been protecting you with such precision, such care, such love, that one day you'll look back and be overwhelmed with gratitude for the things that didn't work out. Your life is unfolding in perfect timing. Not your timing, not society's timing, not your family's expectations or your friends' timelines, but in divine timing, which is always perfect even when it doesn't feel that way. Trust the process. Trust the protection. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you need to become. And now, I need your help with something important. Subscribe to this channel right now if you haven't already, because when you subscribe, you ensure that you won't miss the messages that the universe wants you to receive through this content. The platform remembers those who engage fully, who watch until the end, who participate completely, and it delivers content to them first. That means you'll be first in line for the next insight, the next story, the next piece of guidance that might be exactly what you need to hear at exactly the right moment. Here's our goal. Let's reach 100 comments on this video, 100 people who watched until the end and felt moved to share something from their hearts. Share your own story of how something that didn't work out was actually protection. Share encouragement for others who are struggling to trust the process. Share what resonated with you in this message. For the universe to continue protecting and guiding you, it asks just one thing. Leave a motivational comment on this video. Add your light to this collective energy we're creating. Those who watch until the end and leave their mark are remembered first. Always. That's how the energy works. That's how we amplify this message and help it reach more people who desperately need to hear that they haven't missed anything, that they're not behind, that they're being protected and guided every single moment. Your comment creates ripples that touch lives you'll never know about. That's the power of engagement, of showing up, of participating in this collective awakening. So right now, before you move on to whatever's next, leave a comment. Tell me what you thought you missed that you now understand was protection. Tell me where you're struggling to trust the universe's timing. Tell me how this message landed in your heart. And if you want, tell me from which corner of the world you are watching this video. Your comment matters, and I want to read it and respond to you. For more exciting stories like this, click on the video that appears on your screen right now.